Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and opinions. Today's Thursday, August 4th. My name is Mimi Brown.
I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, we begin our show with breaking news, heartbreaking news, as a Russian court found Brittney Griner guilty. We're going to tell you exactly how many years they're expected for her to spend time behind bars. Meanwhile, Congressional Black Caucus members, they're leading a group of House Democrats signing a briefing to ask the justices to reject legal challenges to race-conscious admission policies. We'll have more on that story. Then, the man who is responsible for the chase that ended the life of Ahmaud Arbery is asking a federal judge to give him some leniency in that situation.
Plus, after 6 long years, Prince's estate has finally reached a settlement, and a former NBA player was arrested at an airport in Dallas. We have all of that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth. So let's get it.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. We begin today with breaking news out of Moscow in the case of Brittney Griner. Earlier today, a Russian court found Griner guilty and sentenced her to 9 years in prison. It comes almost 6 months after Griner was arrested at a Moscow airport, when Russian authorities said they found a vape cartridge in her luggage with cannabis oil. The 31-year-old pled guilty to charges last month, but said she did not mean to break the law. The judge in Russia said the drug possession and smuggling charges against Griner were proven at trial. Now, before the sentence, Griner spoke to the court and to the judge.
I pled guilty to my charges. I understand everything that's being said against me, the charges that are against me, and that is why I pled guilty. But I had no intent to break any Russian laws.
Griner reacted to the sentence with little to no emotion. There's no word yet on what happens next, whether or not she'll be even able to appeal the sentence. The U.S. State Department has offered to do a prisoner exchange with Russia. So actually coming down now, we don't know if she'll be able to appeal the sentence, but her defense team, well, actually we do know. It says right here, breaking news right here on CNN, it says that her defense team has 10 days to appeal the court's decision, which found her guilty today. And so we'll see what happens. As we just heard from Griner, they pretty much said that was her face. It was kind of stoic. There was no emotion. I will say, though, it was great to hear her voice. I don't think during all of this we've had a chance to actually hear from her. Today was a blow to her. So they wanted to originally give her close to 10 years. She got 9. We don't know the status of what's going to happen with this prisoner swap, so we'll have to stay tuned and see what happens with that.
I think that everyone was shocked, to say the least, that it took so long to get this case on the road. It took a long time to finally get her in court, and now it just seems like everything is moving very fast. Like all of a sudden she's in court, and all of a sudden she's sentenced to prison. And so I was talking to our affiliate KTVU in Oakland earlier this morning, and the one question that she asked was, are our viewers pretty much depending on the prisoner swap as the only out? And I told them yes, because honestly, when you look at this here, 9.5 years in prison the prison sentence does not match the crime to me. I believe that there are some people who got less years for murder and for killing someone. And here you have a woman, 9.5 years in prison for some cannabis oil. And so I'm curious to know if the reason why they gave her such a harsh amount of time was so that Russia can use it as bargaining power. Like, you're going to want to get her out. You don't want her in there for 9 years, so you're going to take any bargain that we give you right now. Even if we have a mass murderer, we want to get him out. You're going to get her out because you don't want her in there that long, and you're going to abide by our terms.
I agree. And you know what? I'm going to take that word you use, shocked, because I was not shocked with the sentence. I really felt like this was coming. I felt like this was inevitable. We know Biden calls this ruling unacceptable. We all feel like this is very unacceptable. She will be held in the detention area, so she won't have to go to the actual prison until after they figure out if she can appeal it or not. But imagine the time she may have to spend in the actual prison. How safe will she be? Mentally, how is she going to be? How long will she actually be there before this so-called deal is even done? Hoping it gets done sooner than later, but we know they could drag this out, and that's the scary part.
Right, and I think we talked about this yesterday. The ball is in Russia's court. They have the last say-so. They have the final say-so. show, and so right now we're playing Let's Make a Deal. But Demi, you may be onto something. We always knew the max was 10. I knew she would get close to the max, so I wasn't shocked at the verdict. I'm shocked it was this early.
Yeah.
They had been saying that the trial could last all the way up into December, but you're right, Demi. Once things started rolling, they just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. She did have to pay a fine, which is equivalent up to $16,700. And before the verdict was read, she said to the judge, "Hope your ruling does not ruin my life." So.
Wow, we're definitely going to be keeping our soulmates updated on all things Brittney Griner. Now, a bipartisan group of senators is introducing a bill that will codify the right to an abortion into federal law. The bill, sponsored by Democratic Senators Tim Kaine and Kristen Sinema, along with Republicans Susan Murkowski and Susan Collins, are working on that bill. The bill would prevent states from enacting laws that impose a burden on access to abortions. The bill would allow some reasonable limits on some abortions, so long as they don't impact the life and health of the mother. The senators say that the legislation is an attempt to find a middle ground on abortion rights. This was very interesting because when we talk about the lovely Kristen Sinema, in a lot of different cases, she's been very hard to work with, very much so. The deciding factor in a lot of things and going rogue, as I'll say here. So it was kind of interesting to see Kristen Sinema on our side for something here. I always say, even when we talk about making voting rights harder, making it harder when you go vote in line and things like that, even though it feels like it's something that is really impacting the black community, there are also white individuals, older people that are going to be affected. There are white women that are going to be affected by abortion rights. So I think this was honestly one of her moments to say, you know what, I'm going to make the Democrats, I'm going to be the saving light, the knight in shining armor right now, and do something that's really going to make them feel like I'm on their side. Happy about it, but it's just kind of like, Kristen Sinema, I see what you're doing.
To your point, Demi, about sometimes Republicans vote against things that are in their best interest. It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you guys heard about this, about the senator who voted against gay marriage and then attended his son's gay marriage that Saturday. And so a lot of times this is, performative voting. This is performative action that they're taking so that they look good for their constituents. And so this may be one of those things. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But I do think bipartisan support for abortion to get some sort of bill on record is what we're seeing. And I also think that Republicans are also running scared because midterms are coming up, and there's a story that says they're not as sure as they were 2 months ago that they're going to be able to take over the House and the Senate now because of the ruling on Roe v. Wade. So I think they're doing a little bit of everything now to try and fix it. So this could be that.
I think they're trying to take maybe a couple steps back because, like you said, with the midterms on the way, they're realizing that this is not just affecting people of color. Like you said, Dem, it's affecting black, white, Latinos, all races. And I want to ask you, as women, right, they're saying they're trying to find a happy medium, like in the middle, to make it fair for everyone. At the end of the day, shouldn't it just be fair for women to have their rights? Like,
absolutely.
Even though this may sound promising, I'm still, as a man, kind of disturbed by it, saying, why do we even have to try and find a happy medium for this, right?
I'm glad you said that, Romeo. Go ahead.
No, I think performative that's my only word for this is performative, like Mimi said, is that I'm going to be the savior. I've been hard to work with. The black community knows that, like, there are things that have been important to them, and I've been kind of like back here with my own views, but now this is going to be, they're going to rock with me now because I'm going to do something that's going to be beneficial to that community.
Right. Just think about how we're voting on women's rights in 2022. No matter what your situation is, your circumstance, what you're facing, you should have your own right to choose. People who don't live with you, don't know your situation, should not be coming up with telling you what to do.
100%. All right, well, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court is allowing any registered voter in the state the right to cast a ballot by mail. The decision is a defeat for conservatives in the state that have been pushing former President Trump's lie about fraud during the 2020 election. The court says the 2019 law didn't violate the state's constitution. For years, the GOP favored voting by mail because older Republican voters tended to use ballot boxes. But when African-American voters in 2020 voted by mail in large numbers in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, Trump and his supporters called foul.
And Democratic lawmakers are urging the Supreme Court to uphold affirmative action in colleges and universities. Congressional Black Caucus member Bobby Scott is leading a group of 65 House Democrats. They signed a brief asking the justices to reject legal challenges to race-conscious admission policies at Harvard and the University of North Carolina. The conservative group is asking the High Court to eliminate the affirmative action policies. They claim Asian American applicants are being discriminated against because they are held to and higher academic standards than Black and Latino students. Now, Asian American students are the largest non-white group at Harvard. They make up 25% of the students' population in the incoming freshman class, while African Americans make up only 15%, and Latinos, they make up 12%.
I hope she doesn't go out and kill anyone. That's what former President Donald Trump said after he granted clemency to a Black woman who was in prison for a non-violent drug offense. The quote came from an upcoming book, Breaking History, White House memoir by Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Johnson spent 22 years of a life sentence in federal prison after being convicted of money laundering and conspiracy to possess cocaine. Kim Kardashian lobbied Trump to free Johnson. Johnson was released under the First Step Act, which Trump took credit for, but was started by the Obama administration. And I just have to say something really quickly about this, because what he did for Kodak Black, that affected a lot of people. You let him out, and then he went and did the exact same thing that got him in the place that he was before. And so it's really disrespectful for him to say that for a woman that had a nonviolent offense, that she's going to go out and do it again. But when you do things for people like Kodak Black, who are who are not respectful of a situation like that, then you have someone like Donald Trump who looks at all black people, that we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing that landed us in jail the first time. And I just had to say that because it really upset me.
Very powerful. Well said, Debbie.
Very well said. And again, performative.
Yes.
Performative.
There we go.
All right, so San Francisco Mayor London is calling on a local government official to apologize after he was accused of calling an African-American police cadet the N-word. The San Francisco Chronicle says Board of Supervisor President Shaman Walton, who is Black, got frustrated when the cadet asked him to remove his belt before walking through a metal detector. Walton was angry. The young man did not use a wand to speed up the search. Walton reportedly said, quote, "N-words like you that looks like me, that is always the problem." Walton has admitted he used the word, but says the way he said it was justified. Walton was called out for others for using the slur in the past. Now, he introduced the Karen Act to make it against the law to dial 911 to make a racially biased or fake report.
A recent poll says Georgia Governor Brian Kemp and his opponent Stacey Abrams are in a dead heat. The Survey USA poll shows Kemp has a 1-point lead over Abrams, 45 to 44%. The poll shows Kemp with a 10-point lead with men, while Abrams leads with female voters by 7 percentage points. Now, Kemp beat Abrams to be governor back in 2018 by 50,000 votes. The polling split back then was also racial. Now, Kemp had a 46-point lead among white voters, while Abrams, she was up 76% among Black voters.
The man who started the chase that ended in the death of Ahmaud Arbery is asking a federal judge to show him leniency when he's sentenced next week for his federal hate crimes conviction. Lawyers for Greg McMichael say he deserves a substantial period of incarceration, but he should be spared a life sentence. McMichael also wants the judge to transfer him to a federal prison so he avoids serving time for Arbery's murder in Georgia's state system. His lawyers say he is afraid of being attacked by other inmates if he stays in Georgia. Now, McMichael, along with his son Travis and William Bryant, are scheduled to be sentenced on Monday. All three were convicted of committing hate crimes in the death of Ahmaud Arbery.
Officials at the Environmental Protection Agency say they will help fix the sewage system that has plagued an Alabama county that is 85% African American. Hayneville, Alabama is a town of less than 1,000 people. For generations, residents have had to deal with a poor sewage drainage system that backs up into people's homes. Earlier this week, the EPA and U.S. Department of Agriculture announced a pilot program to help rural communities fix inferior sewage systems. Alabama, as well as rural areas in West Virginia and Apache tribe communities in Arizona, will get federal funding. That money will be used to fix drainage problems that have affected the health of residents in poor communities.
A Maryland court must decide whether a Black man running from police when they come into a high crime area gives cops reasonable suspicion to stop them. Maryland's Court of Appeals agreed to hear the case of Tyree Washington on Friday. Washington's lawyers, they argue that this gun possession conviction should be overturned because they are the only reason officers suspected him of a crime is because he ran after them after they spotted his cruiser. Now, prosecutors say a gun was found in Washington after cops caught him, but Washington's lawyers say police abuse black men in the Baltimore area, that it's so persuasive that the natural inclination of an African-American man is to flee the area when they see a cop. This story is very interesting. This is a very different argument. So basically, the lawyer is arguing that because they were in a high crime area, he ran. He was scared. And so whatever you found on him should not even count because you only chased him because he ran. And I don't know if that's an argument that will work.
I don't know. I don't know if that argument is going to work, but an argument that is very important is the fact that we are terrified of police. We're terrified of police because when there are situations that we are unarmed, we still can end up dead. We can still end up in a wheelchair or fighting for our lives, even unarmed in so many situations. And when we see this as a black person over and over again, your natural inclination is, I don't want to end up like that. So yes, your first tendency is to run. That argument is not good, but the argument about us running because we are terrified of police because the way they treat us is a valid argument.
Have to take that into consideration. It's almost a damn if you do, damn if you don't. And that's why, when you look at this particular case in this situation, you do wonder, okay, you probably should not have been stopped, but the fact that you were and you had something on you, they're going to use that against you.
That's the thing. He had something on him, and I get the argument of high, so police are saying it was a high crime area, but the defense attorney is saying, listen, Baltimore police are always stopping black people, and so my client didn't know what to do, so he ran. So I don't know. Maybe had he not had anything on him, this argument would bode better.
Look, real quick, in my neighborhood, growing up, we were taught to run. And then when we were taught if they were behind us in the car, not to look back, which unfortunately most of the time that's the first thing we would do is this. But those are things, a conversation we would have in our community just because. That's the reality of it.
That's the reality of it. You're right, Romeo. A Tennessee chemical company must pay $12 million to a Memphis man who says they fired him because he was black and older. Victor Bodie, who is 64 years old, worked for Shamor Company, a division of DuPont Chemicals, for about 39 years. A jury awarded Bodie the verdict earlier this summer. Bodie, who worked as a mechanic, says he was fired for taking a shower at work. He says he realized the firing was for something so trivial and it had more to do with his age.
African immigrants in Italy are angry after a video went viral of a man beating and disabling a Nigerian vendor to death. Sorry about that. This is a video of the attack of Filippo Ferlazzo on the vendor. Now, the vendor police say the white man got upset when the vendor said his girlfriend was beautiful. Witnesses stood by and watched for 4 minutes as the man was beaten to death. Police arrested Ferlazzo and charged him with homicide and robbery. The suspect's lawyer says his client suffers from mental health issues. African immigrants protested the vendor's death. They are often victims of racial violence in Italy. Again, we're talking about a situation. First things I want to say this. We already know this, but we have racism across the country. Yeah. We understand that. In this particular case, if the man had mental illness, right, and he said that, when I first hear this, the first thing it reminds me of is Emmett Till. Right, which we know, come to find out he did not actually do that. In this particular case, if the man did, there's no reason that it should have ended up like this. This is so disturbing, yet not surprised because there is a black Italian actress who described a racist message she just received recently for being acknowledged on a TV show, and people saying you had no right to be there. And this is 2022, and she's experiencing that.
I mean, the fact that there are people that watch this happen and again, like we talk about natural inclination, right? It might not be your natural inclination to want to jump in to when you see two people are having a fight like this, but the fact that, people watched it escalate to such a place where someone lost their lives is just really shameful that no one kind of stepped in to do something. I don't know what that something would have been because, of course, you don't want to interfere sometimes, but this is just really, really shameful to have happened like this.
So many people are quick to pull the phone out, but yet not assist, especially in a situation like that.
Yeah, but at least the person with the phone is able to now show what this man did to this other African immigrant here.
Absolutely. Just very unfortunate. And I think we said he was disabled. So just very, very, very unfortunate. All right, a union representing Florida sheriff deputies are filing a complaint with the state bar against civil rights attorney Ben Crump. The Broward County Sheriff's Deputy Union is accusing Crump of making the 29 arrests of a black teen a racial issue. Deputies were caught on video pepper spraying and brutally beating 15-year-old DeLuca Roll in 2019. Now, Roll was picking up a phone that was dropped by a friend who was being arrested by cops. Now, charges of trespassing and resisting arrest were dropped against the boy after this video went viral. Now, Crump, he represented Roll, and last month a jury found the officer who beat Roll was not guilty of assault and other charges.